I just didn't want you later to look at it and go, I can see my monitor.
No, it's the 80s Mulder office.
I love how you guys look out for each other. That's so cool.
I know later he'll watch the video and go, oh my God, what?
Okay, we are live. Welcome to our live show here on October 22nd, 2025. I am Tim, here today with Lance, and we're here today with two very special guests. It's Fronczak and Tracy Hastings of the Fronczak Files. How the heck are you guys?
We're terrific. Thanks for having us back. We had so much fun the last time we did the show together.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this.
Good. Yeah, we were looking forward to this as well. Very, very, very happy that you two agreed to come on and, tell this story again and maybe get into it a little more. And hopefully we can communicate and answer some questions with the listeners or anyone who's viewing this at home. I got to be honest, I think about this story at least once a day. Ever since we spoke, I think about it at least once a day, and I find myself with a smile on my face, weirdly enough, and just shaking my head and just thinking this is one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. And I feel lucky and privileged enough to, have you folks join us again and be open to this conversation again. But if anyone's out there who doesn't know who you are, can you do a quick introduction?
Yeah, Trace, you want to do a recap?
Sure. So my name is Tracy Hastings, and I live in Tucson, Arizona. I am a high-risk obstetrical RN here in Tucson. I am also the co-host of the new podcast, The Fronczak Files, which ran season 1 this past summer and is getting ready to drop season 2.
And I'm Jack Fronczak. I was part of a huge manhunt back in 1964. Mrs. Fronczak had her child kidnapped from a hospital by someone dressed like a nurse, came in, stole the baby out of her arms, and vanished without a trace, set off one of the largest manhunts in our country next to the Lindbergh kidnapping. I was found 2 years later abandoned in Newark, New Jersey, and that's where the whole story really started. Mistaken identity, murder, mafia, I mean, you name it. We've got the best locations. We've got New York, Philadelphia, Atlantic City, Las Vegas, and Chicago. What more could you ask for, Martin Scorsese?
Right? We definitely need to shoot a movie because the locations are going to be great.
Yeah, seriously. So story opens up in Chicago where Jack Fronczak is abducted from a hospital. Woman hops in a cab with the baby and they are gone. And then a year and a half later, you appear in Atlantic City and you're a foundling. Is that what?
I was actually foundling number 1, I think, right? Tracy was foundling number 1.
I think that was the first name that they gave you after you were found. Yes, after you were recovered was foundling number 1.
Luckily, that one didn't stick very long. It's not very catchy.
Well, I didn't even know that a foundling existed. I knew the term changeling existed, and that's always been kind of a spooky term for me to wrap my head around. And it is. That is a really, again, spooky thing where a child is swapped and for financial purposes or whatever. But the thing that keeps going through my mind is how you have turned into a very productive member of society when the option to, or not the option, but the direction your life could have taken could have been completely different. And I think that's why when I think about this story, I just kind of smile to myself because it is a redemptive type story. Do you ever look back at your story and just think to yourself, I made some right decisions here?
I think they're all right decisions because they brought me to where I am now, where we can actually help other people find their true identities. And like we always say, if we're helping somebody else, we're doing something right. And that's what it's really all about. You're right. I mean, I could have just retreated and just had a really horrible existence, but I chose to, well, I think it all started because I had 3 identities And I learned to adapt to my surroundings and to overcome just so I could see the next day, survive. And I think because of that, I've always been searching for something. And because of that, now we want to search to help other people find their lives as well.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? You said just so I could see the next day. What is that like? That feeling that you're expressing?
Well, so my original, but my biological parents, I have a twin sister, Jill, and her and I were abused. We were neglected. We were beaten. I was beaten. I don't know if she was beaten, but I had black eyes from several witnesses, cigarette burns, things like that. So I think that I learned to read the room really quickly and figure out how I should act in any given circumstance. And because of that, I think it's really taught me to adapt. I've had like over 100 jobs in my life, and it's just adapting to whatever circumstance you're in, and it's all survival. And if you take that skill, you can put it into any aspect of your life, and it's a good skill to have. I highly recommend it.
I mean, it's an incredible skill to have. And Tracy was talking with us before we started rolling and before you hopped on, that she told us what you did for a living. And Tim had made a comment like he couldn't imagine you doing like a job because of the fact that you have been so many different types of people, or not different types of people, I'm sorry, because you have been assigned so many different like identities, I guess. And when you two met, Tracy, how did you start to process that? And because when we were talking, I mean, we always end up laughing about this, and it is a serious subject, but we do end up making it lighter. How did you adapt? And yeah.
And we see that sort of across the board through our podcast, through our interactions with each other. If you watch the podcast, you can see that when things sort of get a little heavy and dark, we do tend to have a bit of sense of humor about it. So, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, as the old adage says. And so, because it's so overwhelming, it's so unimaginable. It's next to impossible to relate to. His story is just almost impossible to get your head around. And actually, I knew who he was prior to us meeting for the first time. I had watched he has a Emmy-nominated documentary about his story. It's called The Lost Sons, and it's currently available on HBO Max. And so I watched that, and that's how I first became aware of him. I was working as a search angel in the genetic genealogy world. So helping people figure out who they were when they were getting unusual DNA results back from places like Ancestry.com and 23andMe. And so I had an interest in people with misattributed identity. And wow, this was like a huge story about misattributed. This is the story about misattributed identity. And so absolutely fascinated to watch this film and thinking the exact same thing. This guy seems sort of normal considering what he's been through. Wow. Or he's a really good actor, which he also is that as well. But when we did meet in person, sort of, it was through a similar platform like this with the group that I was searching with. He came on to do a book review for his first book that he wrote called The Foundling. And so we all had read the book, and so we met to meet the author. And that's how we ended up meeting, was through one of those events that he does for groups like that. And we just sort of got to chatting afterwards and found out that we had quite a bit in common. And we're both musicians, we're both performers. We both worked in the medical world at the time. And so we had a lot of places to start from as far as getting to know one another. And then it just sort of started from there. Like, why haven't you done a podcast of your story? You've written 2 books. You've got an Emmy-nominated documentary. You've done 1,000 news shows, talk shows, newspaper interviews. This is the one place that you haven't gone yet. And why not? And so it was sort of I put it out there. People don't really seem to want to do it. And I thought, well, we sort of reached a conclusion of, why don't we do it? Let's see what happens. And here we are.
I like how you said sort of normal. That's very nice. That was my takeaway from that whole thing.
Clearly, yes. At least you were listening to what I was saying.
I was listening, yeah.
So I recently watched the Lost Sons documentary as well, and it's excellent. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks.
I started listening to your book, The Foundling, as well. And I would just like to hear the order of events as far as the projects go. Was the documentary first, or was The Foundling first?
So the foundling came first, and I never set out to write a book, but my co-author, my friend Alex, and I were on the road knocking on doors, digging graves, doing all these things. Everything was happening in real time, and people were writing in, why don't you write this down? This could be really inspiring for us. So we decided to write a book, and I'm glad I did, because it was good and it's helping people, and that's what it's really all about.
Did you say digging graves?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually
Can we
so we
elaborate?
found yeah, okay.
You can't leave them hanging now. You've got to tell them the digging the grave story.
Oh, we're out of time. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, it was just a 12-minute show.
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
So we were able to find my grandma's house in Atlantic City, and my dad was involved with law enforcement somehow, and we heard stories on how one of the twins, obviously not me because I'm still around, but Jill, who we're still looking for, possibly could have been murdered. And I thought, well, if she was murdered by my parents, they probably buried her in the backyard, because I mean it's Atlantic City. What else are you going to do with the body? So I found my grandma's backyard, and I paid this guy to do a ground penetrating radar sweep of the backyard. He found 3 possible grave sites in that backyard, which from what I understand, Atlantic City, that's really not that many. And we only had time. He put an X on them, just like the movies, and we had time to dig up 1 hole. And I figured logistically, probably it'd be the ones closest to the front porch. That way, if the neighbors were out, they wouldn't see them digging that hole. So it was a really hot day in Atlantic City, about 95 degrees. And I'm in pretty good shape. So I started digging. I got like 3 feet down. I'm like, I can't do any more of this. We looked across the way and we saw a couple of guys digging a pool. And so I walked over and I said, hey, who wants to make $100? Help me dig a hole over here. So this one guy, Shane, came over. He said, yeah, I'll dig a hole. I do this all day. So we jumped in there and started digging that hole, got down about maybe 5 feet. He said, what are we digging for? I said, possibly my sister's remains. He looked at me and he said, I've got a daughter. I'm going in. And he just went down and that dirt was just flying. Got down, the water started coming up because we were right off the Atlantic Ocean. And all of a sudden you see little bones fall in the shovel. And even though it was a busy street in Atlantic City, you could hear a pin drop. And he held the shovel up and he said, I've been digging holes out here for 20 years. I never saw any bones. I've got a shovel full. And for a second, I thought, okay, that possibly might be my sister. But then this calmness came over me and I started thinking, no, she's alive. So we took the bones, we had them analyzed, and they ended up being animal bones. But who's digging a hole 6 feet deep to bury your dog?
Yeah, I don't know. As someone who buried my dog last year, maybe a few feet. It was like 3 feet.
Yeah. I'm sorry about your dog.
It was sad. It was very sad, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Um,
Didn't mean to tap into that emotion, Sorry.
See what you do? You don't even intend for things like that to happen.
All right.
Incredible.
I'm sorry, Tim.
So now, what inspired you to get this documentary going? I love the way it's told. It's told in almost like a hypnotic way. That's kind of the only word I can use to describe the style. It kind of forces you to think a lot with just silences, and I really like that. Can you tell us a little bit about how this project came to be?
Yeah, so actually, Raw Productions from the UK reached out to me. They saw clips of my story, they heard interviews and things, and they thought it'd be a really interesting story to really follow up and really dig into and make a docufilm out of it. And so they reached out to me, and we had a meeting. We talked about it, talked about direction and how we saw the project, unfolding. I've always liked the UK, how they've envisioned things. I mean, that's why, it seems like America steals all their shows and then makes some hits over here, right? Like The Office, things like that. But I like the vision that they had. And that's what we did. We just started shooting it. You know, I wanted something that would unfold in front of your eyes, like you were part of the journey.
And you
is
really
that
can't help but get sucked into it, right? Like the opening scene hits and you're invested. You can't look away. You need to know what happens next. And then when you stop and think, this is his life. This is not a movie. This is not a fictional book. This is actually someone's life. And all of these things actually happened to him.
do
Yeah.
either of you get sort of overwhelmed with the telling of the story and
It-
trying to piece it together so everybody can understand what the story is?
That's a good question, Lance. Like when we first met, it was because I guess I know it so well because I lived it that sometimes I don't put pieces together. I'll just jump around a little bit because I get excited about talking about it, and then I'll miss certain key elements. And in the beginning, you were like, I don't understand, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's and
yeah.
it's easy to do that when you're very familiar with the story, to sort of assume that people know some of the things, but yet there's people that don't know this at all. So making sure that we don't leave important things out, so that people are able to follow the story in a way that makes sense to them, and not skipping over things that we think, that's not really important. What we're discovering is that through the podcast is, people are wanting those details. They're absolutely begging for them. And so we get a lot of comments of people asking, what about this? What about that? And then we come together and say, yeah, we didn't really address that. And maybe we should have. So learning to not speed through it, to not tell like the Cliff Note version of it, and to give everyone all of the information so that they feel like they understand it, because it's so complicated.
That's why we really wanted to do the podcast, because I've heard so many people recap my story, just the facts, and a lot of it's wrong. And I really wanted to key in on the human element, how it actually affects people, their emotions, everyone involved with it, not just the key players. Because everyone that we come across that have been part of this, they have taken it with them for the last 40, 50 years. So it's really a deep feeling. And that's what we really wanted to do was capture that.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, your story
we're feeling that with the two of you. We came on here and we did the interview with you guys, and then it was like, we want you to come back, because you cannot help but feel moved by his story. You cannot avoid it.
right. And this isn't a question, it's just an observation. Your story is podcast perfect for this genre. It has all of the elements that intrigue people. It's true. You are hosting it and producing it, and you have a mission as well, and it's long form. And this isn't a 30-second news cut on the local channel. This is something that you've just embedded into people's ears, and they're walking away just like Tim and I walked away from our first conversation, and we were like, this is the most incredible this is the most incredible story we've heard. And taking this and identifying that this is exactly what this genre needs for podcasting is brilliant, and absolutely the right way to go about the overall mission, which is, I just remembered we compared it so closely to Fox Mulder's mission, what he needed to do in the X-Files. I mean,
That's right. You had to find his sister.
Your sister. Can we talk about your sister?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wanted to say too, Lance, that doing this podcast, I have Emily and Colleen and Tracy on our team, really digging deep into the story. We're finding out new information. So even though the story happened a long time ago, it's still happening, and we're learning more and more, and we're solving things that we thought would never be solved. So it's still happening in real time, which is amazing.
And this case has been looked at by the FBI, by the New Jersey State Police, by the Chicago PD, by professional private investigators, by National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. All the heavy hitters have examined this case, and there's still things that we're finding on our own.
Yeah. Podcasting is the right medium, like Lance said, because it's living and breathing, and you can make edits and change and produce a new episode within a day if you need to. So this is the right medium to conduct a real-time investigation into your life like this. But your investigation into your life, I don't want to say has concluded, but it's led you to the investigation into where your sister is. So I guess, can you just take us through that a little bit, from how you discovered your sister was missing, and what are you planning to do? How are you going about
So,
finding her?
okay. So CC Moore, probably one of the top genetic genealogists in the country. She does Finding Your Roots, all these different shows, works with Parabon. They're solving cases almost daily now, it seems like. She reached out to me, and she and her team wanted to help me find my identity and help me find the real biological Paul Fronczak. So it took 2 years to find my real identity. And the day that she was telling me my name, she said, "What do you think of the name Jack?" And I said, "That's a good name." She goes, "That's your name." And just as I was processing that, then she said, "Oh, by the way, you got a twin sister, Jill, and she's missing." So that's how I learned about that little gem. And so I went immediately into the mission of trying to find my missing twin sister. We tried for years and years. I think we finally exhausted our own resources. And so I realized that I had to go to law enforcement to open a missing persons case on her. I didn't want to do that because once you do that, you kind of locked out. And I didn't want to be locked out of my own investigation. So we finally went to Atlantic City Police Department. And even to this day, even though this happened back in 1965, there's like a cover up because they gave me a fake missing persons case number. And then we couldn't contact them. We couldn't reach them for a year. And I wanted to open up the case with NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, because they're really good at helping find people. And they couldn't help me because they said I had a fake missing persons case number. So we lost a year on that. And then finally, through NCMEC, I was able to start working with the New Jersey State Police. And because of that, we opened up a real missing persons case number. And now matter of fact, Tracy, should we talk about the thing that we're waiting on? So during the last 10 years,
Lance is
we've
like,
tested
yes, talk about what you're waiting on.
we've probably tested about 10 women that thought they were Jill. And it's always exciting. I get to know them. We start talking, and these are people that have no idea who they are. And they want their identity because we as humans, that's all we really have is our identity. They want their identity, and it was taken away from them. And then DNA ruled them out. They weren't my sister. But I totally lost. Oh, okay. So what leads us to what's happening today?
Yeah.
You want to go with Tracy?
Sure, I'll tread through this water. So back at the end of May, Jack and I call him Jack because I didn't meet him till after he discovered his true identity. So you'll hear people calling him either Paul or Jack. Paul, the people that knew him before he found out who he really was.
A couple of Scots in there.
And then, yeah, Scott for a year or so, and then Jack. So when Jack and we were asked to present and to speak at the Missing in New Jersey child abduction training course that they were doing back at the end of May. And because Jill's case is filed in New Jersey, it was very appropriate that Jack be present and speak to the fact that his sister is the second oldest missing persons case in New Jersey at this time. There's only one that's older than his. So we were there, we were presenting and mixing and mingling and meeting all sorts of people that we're still in contact with today who are working as part of our team behind the scenes now, geneticists and all sorts of people that are, hear the story and say, how can I help? How can I get involved? And Jack happened to run into a detective that he recognized when he had been there in a previous year giving a keynote speech and stopped to chat. And this detective said to him, "Hey, here's the great news. I'm working your case now." And he's like, "Cool." And she said, and we have a candidate for Jill. What? So that led to a conversation of who is this candidate and what's the deal there? So we got some information that we're not necessarily sure we should have gotten. The treatment that we got after we revealed what we knew was like, okay, you know that? Yeah, we do. So what we were told was that this tip about this potential Jill had come into the New Jersey State Police in November of last year. So November of 2024, a tip was called in that a woman was telling people certain things about her past that led this friend of hers to believe she could be Jill Rosenthal. And her friend called the tip in. So what we know to this point is nothing has been done in the last year regarding that tip. There's been nothing advanced for that. Nobody has been sent out to collect DNA from her. Nobody has even reached out to her, as far as we're aware, to ask any questions at all. It continues to be a cold case.
Why?
Because that's a great question. And that's the question. Why? Why is this sitting when this is so simple? I mean, you know what? I'll go collect the DNA from her. We don't need you to send a police officer from New Jersey to her location to collect this DNA. We'll go do it. This is not hard. So either it's bureaucracy or it's a lack of resources and time, which we know all police departments suffer from, a lack of time and a lack of resources. We know that. It's a chronic condition in this country in lots of areas of our culture. But this is sort of easy. Here's her address, here's her name, here's her picture. Go do a swab and let's rule her in or rule her out. So that's part of our mission is, you get to a point where you might decide you need to go around, under, over official agencies in order to get stuff done.
Going to bend the rules a little bit.
Maybe just a little.
It's maddening
do it.
because if she is my sister, it's once again, another whole year has been wasted. And
this is
pe-
a
people
chronic problem
die.
in this
Yeah.
case. It's a chronic problem. The kidnapper of the real Paul has never been identified either. And as soon as exactly. And as soon as the real Paul was identified, they closed the case. The FBI closed the case, and there's no kidnapper identified, but they closed the case. We haven't closed the case, however. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry with the police have limited resources and, that's why they can't look into these things. And Tim and I talk to families all the time who have the same experience, and they say,
so sick of hearing it.
But like, where are the resources going? Like,
Exactly.
what exactly are they doing? Because it's like, this seems like a slam dunk. This seems like we're not going to get ourselves into any hot water with this one if we just simply help this person out and find out if this is his sister or not. It doesn't sound like something that's going to occupy a militia of police officers and, months and months and months of training. Like, this is something that's just sort of, I would assume, in line with what they do anyway.
We would agree with you.
Just a knock and swab, right?
Yep.
Knock, swab.
And if they say no, then you go from there. But like, that's the only thing that would extend this entire circumstance. Like, there'd be nothing beyond. It's what, a month of work maybe. I'm just wondering, like, what the hell else are they doing? It's like us as podcasters, and we're like, we just don't have time to release episodes.
Yeah. You know what? You make the time. I mean, like most of us, right? Most podcasters have a day job. Like, this is not our job. This is not how we support ourselves. But we find the time, we make the time because it's important and it's something that we're passionate about. And aren't they supposed to be passionate about solving cases? Isn't that what their job is? Isn't that what they're getting paid to do?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think they'd get a very public pat on the back if they actually solved it.
Right. Slam dunk on press-wise.
Missing persons case in New
absolutely.
Jersey, Yeah.
Ugh,
Absolutely, yeah.
so
Yeah,
irritating.
I agree. Yeah.
So I understand the Fronczak Files new season of the podcast is coming out soon. Can you tell us when, and can you tell us what is in store for the next season?
So we're going to drop a day after my real birthday, which is October 27th. So our new season is coming out October 28th. And the first season was focused on telling my story from a human element point of view. The second season, we're actually helping real people find their true identities and help them solve cases. And while still updating about what's happening in my story, because like we said, all these new things are coming out. I think we're closing in on the real kidnapper of Paul. I mean, these are pretty exciting things. So it's going to be a big season. I know I can't wait. Tracy?
Yeah, we have woven together a season that's going to continue to tell Jack's story as it unfolds. We did not reveal all of our cards to our listeners in season 1, so there is more to come. And we are continually researching and working on this case in real time, as well as the team behind the scenes as well. But we also wanted to help other people. and people like Jack. So in season 2, we have someone that we have helped discover their true identity, who is a foundling just like him. So who saw his story, saw this was someone that might understand their situation, who better to understand their situation, reached out to us, did a DNA test, and our team was able to identify people that may be integral to this person's story. So it's very fulfilling for us to be able to help people that are looking to figure out who they really are. We're fallible as well. We can't solve every mystery. We are limited by our accessibility to records and information. Not everything is digitized as of this point, as far as records go. Some stuff does take on the ground research to do. And as you guys know, you don't necessarily make a lot of money doing a podcast and travel. There's a lot of things. It's expensive to do those things. So all down the road for us to do. But it's been very fulfilling for us to help people, even give them a little bit of information about who they are, where they come from. And then our other mission is to highlight cold cases this season as well. Things that have gone cold that maybe if we can help put them back under the spotlight, someone might remember something, someone might recall a detail or think, yeah, you know what, I don't know if this is anything, but maybe I'll just reach out and let them know. We want to hear everything. No tip is too small.
Yeah, totally agreed, because there could just be that one thing that is a detail from someone's past that Jack remembers, or he says something on the show, or you say something to him, and that, ignites this memory that he didn't, realize, and you start to think about it a little bit more. Someone could hear that, and it's the same thing. Maybe a time when the two of, Jack and Jill were together, and now we have somebody who just like randomly heard it, or a friend randomly hears it and passes it along to somebody else who might have said, like, I don't feel like I am the person I've been told I am. And that's a really like real feeling. And that's a feeling that you had, right, Jack? Like, you
Absolutely.
never felt like that.
I still have that feeling, Lance.
Right. Okay. So that brings me to this like word. I just wrote down identity in this book. And by the way, I looked at my notes from the last time we spoke, and it looks like a schizophrenic person wrote this, because I was so all over the place. I wanted to refresh my memory on what we talked about and what my questions were. But I wrote down identity is more than a name. And I think that's why it's so hard to kind of wrap my head around this, is because like we've always been identified as our name, and you kind of take on the personality of your name if you realized it or not. Like, I know a lot of people who, I don't know a lot of people with a certain name, but I know people with a certain name, and I'm like, God, I don't really like the person who has that name. They always seem to be this type of person. And no more than just an observation. Is there a name that you've identified with, like, even if you haven't like said it out loud?
So it's funny. Tracy just said this the other day. She said, I'm starting to see when you're Jack, when you're Paul, and when you're Scott. In like certain situations, I'll revert back to either the toddler that was, neglected and beaten, or the Scott when I was trying to fit in with this new family, had no idea what was going on, or all of a sudden I'm thrown into this life of Paul, where my parents already had preconceived ideas of how I should be because I was their child, but I really wasn't. And so that comes with a lot of responsibility too. So I mean, I'm definitely a Jack. I know that all the way. Paul was I think Paul was the chameleon, the one that just tried to fit in whenever he had to. And then who's Jack, Tracy?
Well, I think that Jack is the guy that we're both musicians and we perform together. That's one of the other things that we do outside of the podcast. And when he's on stage, he is absolutely Jack. That's where he lives. That's what he loves, is to be on stage playing his bass. And that is where Jack absolutely comes out for sure, is on stage. And when I first met him, I was like, Paul? He doesn't strike me as a Paul, just like you said, Lance. Like, certain personality traits get associated with a name. When you hear a name, you sort of have a preconceived notion of what that person might be like. When you hear the name Paul, it brings up a certain image of maybe other Pauls that you've known. And when I met him, I was like, that name doesn't fit him really at all. Doesn't seem like a Paul, but a Jack, yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting how just a different name can make you go, yeah, that fits.
Yeah, you're 100% a Jack. I mean,
Yeah.
Thanks, Lance. Nicest thing I've heard all day.
So tell us about these people who come to you and they want to know their identity, and you are helping them in season 2. You mentioned that there were, I don't know, you said a number that was surprising to me. I think you said about 10 possible women who could have been Jill had come to you. How does that amount of people not know who they are?
Tim, there's thousands of people out there, probably tens of thousands, who don't know who they are.
What am I missing? How?
Tracy, you want to get a breakdown on that?
Sure. Well, the thing that we have to remember is that at the time that Jack was born, this is a very different era. So born in the early 60s and child through the mid 60s. And this is a very different time. And so what we're discovering is that people born in that era, when they're taking DNA tests just for fun, right? Oh, I got it for Christmas. I'm a genealogist. I want to go break through a brick wall. I'm just curious. I just want to see what my ethnicity is. They take this test and go, who the hell are all these people on their match list? Because they aren't recognizing anybody. Like, who are these people? And so I think the number is about 20% of all people who take a commercial DNA test have a DNA surprise. And most often it's the man that raised me is not my biological father. And, we have to remember the 60s, free love, people, though everything looked really shiny and happy and very, Cleaver-like, very Brady Bunch-like on the surface, behind closed doors, everyone was sleeping with everyone. And it was just sort of that type of culture was going on behind closed doors. And it's now coming out. You cannot run, you cannot hide. This is now, people are discovering this on the daily. And this is causing people to have real existential crisis. Like, this is an identity crisis. You not only grow up with the name that you have, and that helps shape your personality, you also identify with this parent. Whichever parent you may discover is not actually your biological parent, you've identified with this person. So if, say, you discover your biological father is not, the man that raised you, well, the man that raised you may have certain cultural affiliations. Maybe they are Irish or Scottish, and you have grown up in that culture and you identify, and then all of a sudden you're told, no, you're not Irish at all. You are 100% Russian. What? Like, and to someone who hasn't experienced that, it might seem benign, but to someone who has experienced it, and we work with those people all the time, it's absolutely devastating to lose half of your identity, let alone all of it, which is what happened to Jack. And so that's a huge number. 20% of all people, two out of every 10 people who take a test get a surprise. And so this is why there's so many people out there that don't know who they are. They're at least missing half of who they are, or they discover that maybe they were donor conceived and their parents never told them, or they were adopted and their parents never told them. So secrets are no longer hiding. We're coming for you.
And it helps answer a lot of questions, because when I was growing up, I was drawn to music and acting and all these things that my parents never exposed me to. They never listened to music. Whenever they would leave, I'd have to, I'd be playing my Rush albums really loud. But when they were home, there was no music in the house. So, you have questions like, why am I drawn to music? Why am I playing instruments that I was never exposed to? And it's all a DNA. And when you find out that it's not really your biological family, and then you do find the real family, all of a sudden those questions get answered. And that's what gives you the complete picture of your life.
Yeah, Rush, though?
Rush. They're back on tour. Can you believe it?
Oh.
Yes, Lance is not in any rush to see them.
Clearly, he is
Well
not.
played.
So Lance is not a prog rock guy.
Nope.
I mean, Rush?
Yeah, they're okay. And this Colleen in the chat, she's on your team, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Colleen is our lead historical researcher and one of our genetic genealogists as well. She
Very
does
cool.
tireless work behind the scenes for us. If we need something looked up, we need to find someone. Between her and Emily, we get what we need.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
We have,
Yeah.
we have
Shout
Not
out.
to, just as an example, the private investigator that we're working with, he was a guest of ours on season 1, and his name is Nino. And he reached out to us and was asking us a question about something, and our team found something for the PI that he was having trouble finding. Same thing for Alex, the co-author of Jack's books. He was looking for information, and our team found it for him. So people that should be able to find what they need to know come to us to ask for help, and we can provide it for them.
And Lance, just to get back to you really quick. So
Yeah.
I was into Rush because I'm a bass player, and Geddy Lee was like one of the best bass players.
I mean, Geddy Lee is a very good bass player.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I was into Rush.
Did you read his biography?
My effing life?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
of course. Yeah.
Of course he did.
Effing yeah.
Did you send him an email and you're like, your effing life?
No, I
You
didn't.
wanna
I
hear
should
about
though, right?
mine? You should have told him about your effing life.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's funny.
I just want to shout out a couple people in the chat here. Ben from Wales, he says hello, and I think I'm going to try. Preya is here, and best comment here. Just got here. What's this about?
You didn't miss
She adds
anything.
an LOL.
Yeah.
It's like I can
we
tell I'm
start
in the
over?
middle. Yeah, in the middle of something here. Yes. Oops, sorry, I muted myself. So I can't wait to hear the second season of the Fronczak Files, and you're going to interview some of these people that you're helping to find their identities.
Yeah, we have some really good guests. We've done a couple of interviews already, a couple of shows, and I think it's going to be a really, really good season. Inspirational, just everything. It's the full package.
And I remember asking you this when we chatted the first time. When you were digging and you found the bones, or when the gentleman who was digging the pool and helped you and they found the bones, and you had this like sense of calm that came over you and you knew that that wasn't Jill, do you still have that same feeling that she is alive? And would you know if you saw her that that's her?
You know, that's a great question. I've talked to several psychics, and they all say the same thing. They have no idea who I am, but they all say that I've got another part of me that is out there alive and has not crossed over. So that's reassuring. So I got that going for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, it's like if I was walking down the street and if she walked by me, would I know? You know, that's like an X-File thing right there. I mean, you never know. I might get a certain feeling. The hair on my arm might stand up. Our eyes might lock, and we can look in each other's souls immediately. I mean, who knows? And that's. I mean, I would like to believe that. Yeah.
I mean, and we know that twins do have a connection to one another. You share a womb for 40 weeks, or maybe a little less, but you share that space together. They bond, and you hear stories about twins separated at birth who grow up to be incredibly similar to one another. They work similar jobs, they live in similar houses, they drive similar cars, and they have had nothing to do with one another their whole lives. So, I have faith that he will know her when he sees her. They will know each other because twins have that bond to one another, even after spending 60 years apart. I believe
What if
that they
what
will
if she's
know
a
each
bass
other.
player? She's a bass player and she loves Rush. Oh my God.
So we know
Lance
Lance
would be
isn't
like,
your
"No."
twin.
Come on.
Really?
That would be crazy.
But would you be surprised?
Nothing would surprise us at this
No.
point, Lance,
not
to be
at all.
honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. But if anything, we'll find her and she'll have a crazy story as well. You know, it's so I can't wait to find her.
Yeah. Speaking of crazy stories, can you tell us about you mentioned the person who kidnapped Paul Jack Fronczak and how you're potentially closing in on who that was. Can you give us an update on how that is going?
Tracy, should we give us a little snippet?
I'm going to let you give the snippet.
Okay. So the person that raised biological Paul, Kevin, his fake mom worked for the mob in Chicago. We found a connection to another person who also worked in that line of business, and they both ended up in Arkansas. And that's what we're working on right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, Arkansas sort of comes out of left field, right? Like, what?
Yeah.
Chicago to Arkansas? Like, how in the world does that work? But I think when you're invested in this case, you go, yeah, okay, that works, because nothing surprises us anymore. But what we have discovered is that we were able to get information that the woman that raised the real Paul at the time of the kidnapping was dating a doctor in Chicago at the time the kidnapping happened. And then apparently at some point after the kidnapping occurred, this woman moved to Arkansas for an undisclosed amount of time. When she returned, she had Paul with her, and his name was Kevin Ray Beatty. So she clearly got this child while she was gone, and apparently in Arkansas. So then we needed to turn our attention to Arkansas. How would Paul have gotten from Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago to Blytheville, Arkansas? And so that's sort of how we started putting some pieces together. And we, not too terribly long ago, we did what we call a mini episode on our hiatus. And so we did it about these two women, the woman that raised the real Paul Fronczak and the woman that we suspect is the kidnapper. And we identify her in our mini episode.
I almost need you to explain that again.
Right? Because it's like everything else, it's really complicated.
Yeah.
It takes me a little while. It's a little complicated, but I feel like my brain doesn't move as fast as it needs to move when the two of you are telling these, updates or telling the story.
Tracy, pull up the PowerPoint.
Yeah, right.
Can you?
So the woman that raised the real Paul Fronczak, her name was Lorraine Fountain. And Lorraine Fountain raised him as a single mother. And she told him that his father was a professional football player in the NFL. And there never was a professional football player in the NFL with the last name of Beatty. So that was pretty easy to be ruled out that was not accurate information.
Plus the fact that he was the kidnapped child.
Right.
Yeah, so we knew that. We knew who his parents were.
That's not true. What we also know is that when Dora Fronczak was shown a photo of Lorraine Fountain, she said, no, that is not the kidnapper. The student nurse who was present right before Paul was taken out of his mother's arms, who did see the kidnapper, also said that is not the kidnapper. So we have it on firsthand account that Lorraine Fountain was not the woman who went into Dora Fronczak's room and took baby Paul from her arms. So we knew right away we're looking for another person.
And this person, Lorraine Fountain, which is an amazing name.
All right. I'm sure that was her real name.
One of many names that she had.
Mm-hmm.
We found her police records and her arrest reports and
lots of aliases.
Wow. You'll like this episode, yeah.
At one time, she tried to say she was 20 years younger than she really was. Like she was not a good person.
I say that all the time about me. I feel like I'm a good person.
So she was put in prison. She breaks out of prison.
What?
She goes to a ball game. Out of how many people were there? 20,000 people?
Yeah, there was several thousand people, 25,000 people at this baseball game.
She runs into a probation officer.
And lands back up in jail.
You can't make this stuff up.
Why?
And so this is the woman that raised the real Paul. This sort of gives us an insight into the type of upbringing that he had. And it can give us sort of an insight into the type of person that he grew up to be as well, who was a rather dysfunctional person, unfortunately. And, just telling a little bit of a story about Lorraine Fountain, you can definitely see why there was a lot of dysfunction in his world. So then we need to come up with, of course, who is the kidnapper then? Who kidnapped this child? And taking the kidnapper sketch, and also looking for the last name of Beatty in Arkansas, because we knew Lorraine had went to Arkansas after the kidnapping happened. Where are Beatty's in Arkansas? Where could they possibly be? And we were able to place a couple. The man's name is Ray Beatty, and the woman's name is Alice Swain. And they were living in Blytheville, Arkansas. And Kevin's full name, the real Paul, grew up as Kevin Ray Beatty. And when you take a look at Alice Swain's picture and you look at the kidnapper sketch, it's an incredible resemblance.
But no spoilers.
So what's the next step here? Because that is,
Wait, sorry. I'm going to need you to repeat that just one more time.
yeah.
Which
No,
part?
I'm just kidding. Sorry.
When you said that, Tim, you said that, I was like, thank God, because I was about to. Because I needed.
All right, we'll let Jack explain it then.
Okay, so I'm going to build a DeLorean, and I'm going to go back in time. I need 88 gigawatts, and that's
Now
it.
that's
There.
making sense.
Okay, now we get it.
And then you'll play Johnny Be Good on the stage.
There we go. There it is.
It'll catch on, kids. I promise you. Right? Yeah.
But this
All of
is
the young people watching this are like, what the hell are they talking
Yeah.
about?
This is so close, though. Like, you're so close to an
we
answer.
feel like we are. We feel like, we absolutely feel like we are.
Absolutely.
No, but I think that, like we've discussed, will we ever really be able to prove it is really the question.
Yes.
But there's also cases that, cases are won on circumstantial evidence. And we have, even though some of it is circumstantial, it's very compelling and very convincing.
Now, is the case having been closed? Does that prohibit any legal proceedings if you were to find the kidnapper?
It's actually good for us because nothing's off limits. If it was open, then we'd have a problem.
Yeah, since the FBI has stopped looking into the case, it's sort of now, okay, then who's going to tell us no?
Right. But she's deceased?
She is.
She is. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you, Colleen. That was my next question.
Hi, Colleen.
She stole it.
Thanks, Colleen.
Colleen, hop on. We'll send you the link. Okay, so, but she's deceased, and Colleen said all of these people are deceased.
Yes.
But that still doesn't mean that you can't progress with something, though, right?
It doesn't mean that justice is not needed in this case, just because people have died.
Right.
Justice still needs to be served.
Right,
sure.
right. And it is possible to contact people who are not deceased, who might have had a conversation or a connection or some sort of interaction with these people to make this happen. This isn't something, as the more we talk about it, I'm realizing this isn't something that happened with one person. This is like a bigger thing. I mean, this isn't something that was one person's decision and that person kept it to themselves. It's one person did the act, and a series of events happened that involved numerous people. Do you feel the same way, that there's numerous people involved in this?
It was definitely orchestrated.
Yeah.
The kidnapping was a very well planned out event. This was not something that was done on the fly, and we know that. There was reports of the nurse that kidnapped baby Paul was seen to be in other hospitals in Chicago during that time, and also had been seen in Michael Reese Hospital prior to the day that she stole Paul. And that she'd also, the day she took Paul, was going into other mothers' rooms and looking at their babies, almost like she was shopping for a baby with certain physical attributes. Like maybe there was a family that was looking for a baby that would look like them. So we want a baby with dark hair, dark complexion, dark eyes. We want this, we want that. So she was looking for a baby that would maybe fit the bill, because we suspect this was some type of baby selling ring, potentially was at the heart of this kidnapping.
Geez, yeah, well, it does sound like it. Certainly seems organized to some degree. I was going to ask, what was she looking for, in your opinion? But yeah, you kind of answered that. And
one of the things that we know is that the person that we suspect to potentially be the kidnapper, her mother-in-law, Ray Beatty's mother, was a nurse. So if you have a nurse, as a nurse myself, My family knows the process of hospital policy and protocol because I'm a nurse and I talk about the safety things and all those things here with my family. So I have to assume that this would have been chatter that would have happened among their family as well. And if someone is looking for information about how to go into a hospital and take a baby, who better to ask than a nurse? And who might provide you with the uniform that you might need to walk into a hospital unnoticed?
It's all coming together, Lance.
So are you suggesting that this is like an inside, they've infiltrated the staff at the hospital?
I don't believe that she infiltrated, but she knew how to blend in. She definitely had been given pointers from someone about how to blend into the culture of a maternity ward on the hospital floor. And I work a maternity ward and a hospital floor. So, today we have a huge security all over the place. The kidnapping of Paul Joseph Fronczak is actually what prompted our current baby security system of the Code Pink. So anyone that has had a baby in recent history, you probably know about this, that babies are equipped with an electronic tracking device while they're in the hospital. And if babies are taken too close to a stairwell, an elevator, any type of exit that they are not cleared in the computer to go by, near, or through, it will send the hospital into lockdown. The doors shut, the elevators stop running, no one gets in, no one goes out until this baby's located. And this is the case that started that entire security process, was the abduction of Paul Fronczak.
Wow. Well, if nothing else, that's a huge achievement.
There's always a silver lining.
Kept a lot of babies safe because of what happened to him.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm kind of speechless here for once. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Your story is just so wild, and just want to support it in any way we can. And very glad to know you both and to have you on the show, and hopefully introduce your show and your project and goals to other people who are interested. But hopefully hopefully there's connections that can be made.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. And if any of your listeners ever have any questions about their own identities or someone that they care about, reach out to the Fronczak Files. We'd love to help you.
Yeah.
All of our help is always free. It's free of charge. We provide you with the DNA testing kits. We provide you with all of the research and genetic genealogy, which if you have a commercial DNA company do it for you, I think the starting rate for that is somewhere around $3,500 to $5,000 is the starting package for like a low tier search for you, including your genetic genealogy research. And we will do that for you free of charge.
And where do you tell people to go if they have any information on Jill?
I would say come to us first, the Fronczak Files, thefronczakfiles.com. Because if we get the information, we can act on it immediately. If they go to law enforcement, it could be years.
Right.
And we won't know. We will be locked out of it. We will not be aware that happened. And there's a place on our website, and it's called Finding Jill. So you go to the website, you click on the link, and it'll take you to a tip form, and you can fill it out anonymously and send us any information. Even if you don't think it's worthwhile, it might be nothing. It could be everything. So please don't hesitate. If you think you know something, say something.
Leave no stone unturned.
Yeah. Okay. We just popped that up on the screen there, which is a direct link to the Finding Jill section of the website. I think we're going to be talking again. I think we're going to be talking about new developments very soon.
We sure hope so.
I have a feeling, we're coming into like the holiday season, and I feel like people get sentimental. I feel like they start to be more reflective, and I don't know, just got this gut feeling.
I like that feeling, Lance.
We hope your gut is right.
Yeah.
My I was going to make a gut joke, but we'll just pass on that.
This cannot be edited, right?
I mean, exactly. This is going to live forever. So let's just go with my feelings for Rush.
Got it.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us here tonight. And thanks to everyone who joined us live, or if you're listening to this later, we really appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to check out the Fronczak Files podcast, as well as the books and the documentary, The Lost Sons.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, gentlemen. This was a lot of fun,
Thank
and
you.
I look forward to doing it again.